Bethesda just broke their silence, and this is absolutely massive, unbelievable, in fact. Bethesda, the video game creation company that's supposed to make video games, is gonna make video games. I know. Contain yourselves, contain the excitement, because this probably seems normal for any other studio, but Bethesda doesn't make games. They make 16 times the details. They make 16 times the dreams. And most importantly, disappointments. But no, seriously, this news for Fallout fans is actually massive. Because while we totally do not believe in a future where Bethesda or Obsidian make any good games, it just got announced that we are actually going to get two, not one, but two games that are almost impossible to fail. And from all the lineup that we just got announced, it's huge. We got Fallout 5 in the works officially. It's happening. We know that that's going to be a failure. But we also have the remake of Fallout 3 and New Vegas. And the fact that New Vegas is going to be remade, that means that Todd has lost all control over Bethesda. Like, Todd is not choosing a single shit that happens any longer. Like, he is literally out of the company. He is effectively already fired. What a day. What an absolutely glorious day, honestly. But yeah, because Todd would never allow New Vegas to be remade. Oh no. And it's gonna happen. And the grand finale that I know you were expecting the most. Fallout Online game. That's right. Fallout 76 2 probably is being made. No, that's gonna be an absolute fucking disaster. Yeah, that's gonna be really bad. But New Vegas remaster, it's time once again for Bethesda to be completely humiliated.
Bethesda Game Studios just gave us a massive update on their future. Yeah, this is the update many of you have been hoping for. They basically just laid out all of their upcoming projects, including some very surprising new announcements. This being part of the evolved strategy at Bethesda following the layoffs, the company went through somewhat of a restructuring, but now we do here, we're investing more deeply in the worlds players love, giving creators a bigger role in shaping their experiences and bringing our teams closer together.
That's a strange way of saying, oh, we're gonna make a game once again after 15 years of doing nothing. And yes, Fallout, Starfield doesn't obviously count.
So we can get our games into your hands sooner, support them longer, and continue building them alongside you for decades to come. Bethesda is of course working on the Elder Scrolls 6, that is their primary focus right now. But
disaster. It's gonna be a disaster. It's gonna be garbage, it's gonna be woke on top, and you know it.
things are evolving beyond that. The Elder Scrolls 6's engine, Creation Engine 3, is now going to serve as a tech platform for both the Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. And while
Now, this is interesting news considering the Creation Engine 3 doesn't exist yet, buddy. Yeah, this is great.
Fallout 5. And while it does appear things are very early days still, both franchises are now in active development as yes, Fallout 5 has gone into pre-production. It's actually being worked on now. Beyond that, Bethesda Game Studios does have multiple other Fallout games in development, including multiple remasters, and that's not even all. One of these is of course the long-rumored Fallout 3 remastered, but Bethesda also
Dude, people are gonna be so disappointed with Fallout 3 Remaster. Because Fallout 3 is just not a good game. The Fallout Ultimate tier list is very simple. It's Fallout New Vegas. Yes, why would I? By the way, of course I'm gonna continue talking good about Fallout New Vegas. Why would I lower my standards? Why would I stop comparing everything to the golden standard of Fallout games, aka New Vegas? Everything gets judged by the best, not the worst. This is how you become successful. This is how you know you're an actual non-Muppet. Don't compare things to the worst. Compare them to the best. And New Vegas is the best. And then it's Fallout 4. Then it's Fallout 3. And that's pretty much all the modern day Fallout. Yes, 76 is not even counted in this.
explicitly confirms that a New Vegas remaster is also coming, this confirming a past leak by Jez Corden. But what is surprising and honestly very exciting is also the new Fallout 76 content. Fallout 76 will be getting a major expansion.
I mean, I'm sure Juice and, the people who play 76 are gonna be real happy about this.
Taking us to Raven Rock, that being the Enclave HQ from Fallout 3, and this is going to be a prequel story, giving us a much closer look at the Enclave right around the time of the bombs dropping, just a few decades after rather than hundreds of years after. And of course, they confirm the biggest news as of late, that Obsidian is in fact working on a new Fallout game with Bethesda Game Studios. And I think that with detail is incredibly important here. And we even have a day to look forward to, as it is confirmed that for Fallout Day 2027, they're going to be doing a special 30th anniversary celebration in Washington, D.C., which, would be a really epic moment to drop Fallout 3 Remastered, which does take place in Washington, D.C. Diving into each of these announcements, there is a bunch to unpack here, and I can add a nice amount of context via past quotes or even some other leaks out there. As one of the first things that does feel quite revealing is who is making the new Obsidian Fallout game. Here we do have the first official confirmation that yes, this game is real, in case anyone was still doubting Jason Schreier, but how they describe the Obsidian Fallout project is very interesting. The Wasteland continues to expand as we team up once again with our longtime friends at Obsidian Entertainment. We're happy to confirm they're working with us on a new Fallout project. Obsidian is working with Bethesda Game Studios on a new Fallout project. To me, this certainly sounds like co-development, or that Bethesda will take a very active role in this game's development. They say more details will be shared in the future, so in all likelihood, it's better to just wait for that over speculating on a game that literally just began being.
By the way, again, all of this makes me think it's not actually New Vegas 2. Because if it was New Vegas, they would have revealed this. Because people would go ape shit for it. And furthermore, what makes me believe even stronger now that it's not New Vegas 2 is the fact that the remake of New Vegas is also confirmed, which means it it's kind of strange to do a remake and the real release because they would kind of cannibalize each other a bit. But if the actual remake is kind of close, and I mean like a year or two, because Obsidian's Fallout is not going to be here for like at least 4 years at this point. If the Fallout New Vegas remake happens in like 2 years or 3 years, then it definitely is a Fallout New Vegas 2. Granted, in 3 years, we're gonna definitely know what it is with a lot of detail and whatnot. But the fact that we just don't know that it's for sure Fallout New Vegas 2, which is insane, makes me think that maybe it's not
being worked on, but assuming some of the past leaks are true, there's going to be a project led by Josh Scheuer, the same game director on Fallout New Vegas. But even compared to Fallout New Vegas, based off what's said here, it definitely sounds like Bethesda Game Studios will have a more active role in this game. But what was honestly the most surprising and exciting reveal to me was Raven Rock for Fallout 76, as this is a multi-layered reveal.
This is not surprising in the slightest, because Season 3 of the Fallout TV show is probably going to be about the Enclave, because the Enclave are the obvious sad baddies, because everything needs to be obvious, They have to tell you who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. So Enclave is the obvious bad guys, because, well, obviously. So there you go. So 76 is gonna do an Enclave thing. This was 100% expected.
Fallout 76 has
Not that anyone cares, but I mean, this was expected.
Been leading to or even just teasing some kind of Enclave update for a while now. The 76th update has been teased in a bunch of
Plus, people want the Enclave because, well, everyone loves the Enclave.
Interviews as something coming next year and being rather large. Technically, it's not confirmed.
The Enclave is still technically one of the very few groups of power in the game that actually doesn't look like a bunch of fucking clowns. Now, they are clowns, but they seem less clowny than anyone else. So, Obviously, people like them a lot.
But I suspect this is the 76th update. But it should be pretty unique overall. Fallout 76 takes place just 25 years after the bombs drop. So this expansion, and it is described as a major expansion, but this would take us to Raven Rock just a few decades after the US collapses, giving us a very interesting look into how the Enclave reacts to the world ending. We've seen that Fallout Season 3, that being the TV show, is pursuing an Enclave storyline as well, so I just have to imagine there's going to be an even larger tie-in between the game and the show next year. We saw it briefly with the Ghoul, but from my understanding, this was fairly last minute and of course decently high level. But hypothetically right now, Bethesda's working on this Enclave expansion, while Fallout Season 3 is filming a bunch of Enclave.
By the way, they're gonna ruin the Enclave so much. They're just gonna be stereotypical evil fucking Nazi garbage. It's gonna be the most woke iteration of the Enclave you have ever seen in your life.
Content. Hopefully this means we have a really cool and more interesting tie-in. But this should hopefully mean that we get to see the Enclave both.
I mean, the Fallout TV show has turned everything in Fallout that was previously serious or reasonable into a complete fucking toilet humor dumpster fire. Sad but true.
Pre-war and post-war via the TV show, but then also slightly post-war in a new setting with Fallout 76's expansion to connect it all together. We don't get any release dates or much updates on the Elder Scrolls 6, but the dev dynamic is somewhat changing around the Elder Scrolls at Bethesda. ZeniMax Online Studios was always separate. They made and were on the Elder Scrolls Online, which it is worth mentioning, everything I've ever heard was the Elder Scrolls Online made pretty good money, it was a very lucrative game, and this even gave ZeniMax Online Studios the opportunity.
How is that possible if they shut down the studio? Xbox is leaking money left, right, and center, and you're telling me Elder Scrolls Online was profitable, but they shut it down? Yeah.
To develop a big new IP. They were finally getting to work on something new and their own. Except last year, that new game was shut down after years of dev time, and the studio overall was gutted. This year, the studio was gutted.
By the way, this is exactly the room that I can imagine where the conversation about how about we make the Daedra gay or trans or bi happened in. It would be beautiful. These are the exact type of people who would make these decisions.
Once again, and even just this past week, a bunch of the leadership was let go, to the point where they even clarified that the already released ESO roadmap is likely going to be a bit inaccurate now due to how many cuts there were on the content team, as it basically seems like that ZeniMax Online Studios is almost being absorbed into Bethesda Game Studios. They clarify here that the ZOS devs are going to be working closer with Bethesda Game Studios on the Elder Scrolls as a whole. By aligning more directly across the franchise, we can create even better experiences for players. But to me, this honestly seems rough. It really just sounds like ZOS got gutted, and now a bunch of Bethesda Game Studios leadership has more on their plate with managing ZeniMax Online Studios stuff also. But either way, ESO did just get a big free update. They kicked off their new seasonal model this week. That's
yes, the Sims 4 update classic.
Bunch of new free content as long as you own the base game, and the first one's the Thieves Guild, so it's very easy to get into. Even from these most recent updates, we don't learn much about the next game from Bethesda Game Studios with the Elder Scrolls 6. They mention how it's Bethesda's main focus of development right now, and last we heard from leaks, this game was 2 years away, or maybe even more. And while we don't get any further clarification on that here, now that we know that Fallout 5 is also being worked on, what does that mean for Fallout 5's release date? If even the Elder Scrolls 6 is still 2 years away, when could Fallout 5 be coming? They definitely make it clear that Fallout 5 is not anywhere near release. It's not like any of these recent layoffs are going to exactly help development times, but the big thing in Fallout 5's favor is how the engine upgrade was done already. Our teams are now developing the Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 on Creation Engine 3, a shared technology platform we've been building since Starfield's launch. It allows our teams to support multiple
So, in a single year, they upgraded Starfield's Creation Engine 2 to 3. You see, this doesn't make sense, because Starfield got upgraded to the Creation Engine 2.5 at some point. Don't remember when, but it happened. So, now, in less than probably half a year, we're at Creation Engine 3. Either the Creation Engine 3 is fucking pure slop, and will look as bad as Starfield, or it doesn't exist and this is lies. And maybe it's just almost finished.
projects simultaneously with new tools, rendering, and systems that define our games. Sharing this tech engine should mean a generally faster development cycle, and who knows, maybe in 3 to 4 years we actually could have a new mainline Fallout game, if they're really just focusing on some of the new content and adding stuff onto the engine as opposed to creating entirely new things or updating the engine in the middle. But of course, even that timeline, 3-4 years, is incredibly ambitious. And with how early all of this is right now, I think any dates are just misleading. Bethesda internally might not even really know when this game's coming out. Although with this larger focus on Creation Engine 3 for both Fallout 5 and the Elder Scrolls 6, it does really make me wonder where this Obsidian Fallout game will be made. Obsidian has a massive amount of experience with Unreal Engine, but if we start getting into the situation where we have one Fallout game on UE5 and then a separate one on Creation Engine 3 coming out just a couple of years later, that could be really weird and janky. I mean, we already know that the Fallout remasters will likely be on UE5, and that will often yield a whole different level of modability, which with a spin-off game in particular could be huge. And really, Creation Engine 3 as a tech platform is one of the more interesting details revealed here. The Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 are going to use the same engine with minimal changes. There won't be a huge upgrade, but we do know that Creation Engine 3 did just get some kind of notable big feature. We only just learned about this engine in the past year. It's a relatively new reveal. But in interviews dating back to 2016, Todd Howard talked about some feature of the Elder Scrolls 6 that they were planning, but how the tech and really the engine weren't there yet to pull it off. But finally, earlier in 2026, Mortismal Gaming asked Todd Howard if the tech was finally there yet.
No, I mean, that's a very
10 years later. Just 10 years later. Just, not a big deal. Don't worry about it.
old comment, and it has nothing really to do with the availability of hardware. It has to do just with where we're at internally, with our own engine, what we want the games to do. You know, Starfield was clearly a big step and the basis for Creation Engine 3 that we're working on right now to do everything we want to do for that game.
And this seems
Again, so Starfield is out, Creation Engine 3 is not ready, or is barely ready, which means The Elder Scrolls 6 is at best, if you want to be super nice, 1 year into development. And, well, let's see how long it takes them. It should be like 3 or 4 years if they rush it, so 5 years? That would be a relatively very fast, like half as slow as the typical AAA game release nowadays, because most of them take like 6 to 8 years. So that would be insane if Elder Scrolls 6 dropped in 4 years, honestly, at this point. So, yeah, interesting. But again, sus. Nothing, it seems like nothing is ready.
like a pretty big deal now. Todd Howard said to do everything they wanted with the Elder Scrolls 6, they had to update the engine. So whatever this new thing is, it seems like a fairly core feature. And of course, this is very relevant here. Whatever this feature is, it seems integral to the Elder Scrolls 6 and maybe even Fallout 5 now. IGN did ask Todd Howard what this feature could be, but we get a fairly vague response.
I think there are things outside of the rendering that you would expect as it comes to data systems, you know, how our worlds load, how they load content and present things of high detail close to the camera without spoiling it, you know.
So what many are speculating now is that this has to do
I'm sorry, did he really say high detail?
rendering in large cities or locations. In Starfield, things are much higher detail, but consistently broken up by those load screens. I heard from someone that Neon in Starfield used to be just one big world space, but on release, this was broken up into several load screens. It makes a lot of these locations feel dated. It's one of the #1 criticisms with Bethesda games, particularly Starfield. I mean, it's literally one of the first things many people were trying to mod out of Skyrim a decade ago. Although, do note, Open Cities does have major issues, almost like the engine isn't actually meant to function this way, so be careful if using this mod, but this engine upgrade could be finally addressing that. Imagine with Creation Engine 3 and the Elder Scrolls.
Okay, you need to understand how fucking unacceptable is this. If someone can mod a 15-year-old game to be open world and it barely has issues, then Bethesda has no excuses ever.
6, you roll up to a giant island city and can just hop off your boat and go exploring. No load screen required, and it'll make the whole thing feel a lot more interconnected and seamless. You could absolutely see how the same could be true in Fallout 5, really returning to that more organic exploration. But then we also have the other Fallout games, with Bethesda confirming that both a Fallout 3 and New Vegas remaster are in development right now, although I wouldn't expect these to drop at the same time. I've seen many people hopeful for that, and I could see people taking that away from this announcement, but no. We don't get many concrete details on these games, but a lot of the rumors thus far have been that the Fallout 3 remaster was targeting 2027, with New Vegas being sometime after that, likely at least a year or several years after Fallout 3. And when it does come to 2027, in this we also of course have the reveal of Fallout Day in Washington DC in 2027. This being a big Fallout fan celebration they'll be doing, which on one hand, these Fallout fan celebrations are awesome, bringing Fallout Day in person, and of course to a awesome city like Washington DC is huge. All of the time I've gone to these Fallout fan events, you just are there.
Look at how everyone's happy because it's New Vegas. Ah, this kills Bethesda inside.
With incredibly friendly and like-minded people talking and sharing Fallout. It's an awesome experience. I would absolutely love to see Bethesda make this a yearly in-person event. We don't always have to go to DC, but so many of these other games have these yearly celebrations. With how big and hot Fallout is, I think Bethesda should stick to this, and them at least bringing it back next year is a very good step in the right direction. But this does become interesting. It does feel like if we make it to the back half of 2027 with no official confirmation that Fallout 3 Remastered is actually coming next year, because of course this would be after the developer direct, after the summer showcase, it could create the situation where the Fallout 3 Remaster is one of...
Wait, no news about the Fallout Online thing? There's no fucking way. Am I tweaking? Wasn't it pretty much already confirmed that we're having another glorious online experience?
The worst kept secrets in gaming. Like imagine another year with no actual news, assuming they're trying to do a shadow drop at this October event. But either way, having a ton of fans in Washington DC while a new Fallout 3 remaster drops will be an absolutely epic moment. But then we have Bethesda's other major franchise with Starfield. As we enter year 3, we'll continue expanding the settled systems with new stories, targeted gameplay improvements, and additional updates, while preparing for the launch of new Starborn content next year. This is confirmation that Starfield is continuing. It is not a dead game now. Starborn has long been rumored to be one of the upcoming expansions, and it seems like that is still coming. But the number...
How many expansions did they promise on Steam? 2 or 3 or what?
Are pretty interesting. We hear how Starfield hit 17 million players, which isn't great. Assuming this number is fairly well updated as of July of this year, that means from November of 2024, when Starfield hit 15 million players, to July of 2026, about a year and a half or so of time passing, Starfield only added 2 million additional players. Although
that would still be a lot for Starfield, I'm not gonna lie, but I mean everyone hates it.
I do think the next number, with nearly 1 billion hours played, is the far more important metric here. Starfield has
Juice, please, just say milliseconds played at this fucking point so it sounds even better.
Consistently been described as a Game Pass monster. So I don't think there's a super wide audience for this game. It's not going to hit crazy player numbers, but the people who do like Starfield absolutely love this game and play a ton.
Yes, the 5 autistic people who like Starfield and play it because they're retarded do love in Starfield, in fact.
Of it. And as such, we've also learned that 40% of these players have used creations, which is an interesting stat. Creations could be either...
I wonder how they're fudging up the numbers, because I assume this 40% is referring only to active players in the past, like, year or months or whenever. There's many ways that you can make this number go up and down.
Creations could be either free or paid mods, but I've long speculated that with how the modding scene evolved with Starfield, paid and free mods being released at the same time, there's likely a ton of players that are actually buying mods. I have to imagine this is going to be one of the most well-monetized audiences out of all of the Bethesda games with paid mods. So I wouldn't be shocked if a major...
Well, if you're playing Starfield, you definitely are a sucker.
Contributing factor to keeping this game alive is players just keep buying paid mods, even if there isn't a ton of them. And of course, they're putting a ton of hours into the game. And we do get some actual numbers on paid mods, as Bethesda does report that they've paid out over $10 million in royalties.
what a fun game. Look at this. This is gameplay.
which is massive, because that means after Bethesda has already taken their cut, modders have still made $10 million selling paid mods. And keep in mind, some of the biggest
Bethesda's cut was something like 50 or 60%, by the way.
releases, the Elder Scrolls 6 and potentially Fallout 5, are still ahead of us. That's really when the paid mod situation will likely go to the next level. I've said time and time again that
True.
paid mods are becoming an increasingly large part of Bethesda Game Studios' business, but a lot of people are just not realizing this. This is the first time we've seen actual numbers backing some of those claims up. Internally, Bethesda has started actively providing funding for some of these larger projects. So basically, they'll give you a chunk of
Yeah, that's gonna create a lot of issues.
money to kickstart development, and hopefully this allows you to make an even bigger and higher quality piece of content. The system still definitely has problems. Basically weekly you could find major complaints, and I know many people making content in the system who have those same or very similar complaints. But overall, that is your update from Bethesda, and just as a meta communication, I think this is fantastic from
Oh yeah. I mean, this is more news about Bethesda, Fallout, and the Elder Scrolls that we have officially had in ever, honestly. So it is really massive. This is a game changer. Obviously, how good on any of these decisions are is kind of sus and questionable, but it is a massive change. So there you go. Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Press that like button. It takes less than a second. Helps out the channel tremendously. Thank you everyone who supports. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye.